Viewers, hi, I'm back with another book review. This is the 25 books of 2025. And as part of actually, at the start of the year, I went to a goodie bag event, and this was the book in question. It was a goodie bag book group thing, and it was actually pretty cool. So, funny reviewing the book, let's go back to the library. Anyway, Elif Shafak, The Island of Missing Trees. Now, interesting too, because this is a story going for back in time, back very, very much in time, and also from the perspective of a tree, a fig tree growing in a garden. Here we are. In 1974, two teenagers on opposite sides of a divided Cyprus met at a tavern in the city they both call home. The tavern is the only place that Kostas, who is Greek, and Delphine, who is Turkish, can meet in secret, hidden beneath the leaves of a fig tree growing through the roof of the tavern. This tree will witness their harsh, happy meetings, and will be there when the war breaks out and the teenagers vanish. Decades later, in North London, 16-year-old Ada has never visited the island where parents are born. She seeks to untangle years of her family's silence. The only connection she has to the land of her ancestors is a fig tree grown in the back garden of their home. This is a book about war. It's a book about colonialism. This is a book about racism. This is a story, okay, of Delphine and Costas, who love ripped them both apart. Absolutely ripped them both apart. And one thing I loved about this book is there's some very, very clever subversions. Now you think just by reading the blood that this couple fled Cyprus, and I've actually been to Cyprus, but I went there 30 years ago, a place called Paphos. My sister Kay got married out there, and married to her husband. She celebrated her 30th anniversary, and so I visited Cyprus, and whilst I was there, I noticed things okay like Turkish delights were called Cyprus delights. Now I was 15 at the time, excuse me, so there's not really much I could understand okay about a war, okay, especially a war okay that actually only took place 20 years before. There were still kind of scars of the war, but it wasn't something that people really talked about. This is a point of actually trying to understand your past, and the thing is, how one thing I really wish they done is get into more people's heads a lot, but this is how okay it opens with the island. And here we are. It has been many years since I fled that place and boarded a plane inside a suitcase made of soft black leather never to return. I since adopted another land, England, where I've grown and thrived, but not a single day passes that I do not yet be back home, motherland. So this is from the fig tree. Now the fig tree is grown in the garden. The fig tree was from the Happy Fig, which was the tavern where Costas and Delphine met. And interesting too because the arrogance of this fig tree, it's quite interesting because the fig tree, when it goes on about its life, goes life back to the dinosaurs, goes back to biblical times, if you will. But this fig tree is an immigrant. This fig tree is not the original. It's kind of like this idea, okay, of all fig trees, all everything having hive minds, if you will. So it's very, very interesting. When it gets to Ada, now Ada, sorry, the one is about to break up, Ada's in history class, and having a genealogy project. Now, as I mentioned before, okay, on my channel, I am descended from Brazilian immigrants. My family got here 130 years ago, and we lost everything. The religion, not Catholic, okay, the language, I didn't speak Portuguese. So the only thing, even my surname, my Brazilian surname, was longer, and it got shortened, okay? As Brazilian surnames, African surnames normally get a little bit quite long. No, just anglicized, yes. And they picked the kind of the worst thing to actually anglicize it to a single one. So I am an Anglo-Saxon South American who is not Catholic, can't speak Portuguese, has never been back to the motherland. So I read this with a certain point of understanding, okay, but also empathy because you have Ada, who essentially is she's first generation, okay, she is first generation and she's absolutely lost. She's absolutely lost. Right. And when her teacher asks her, okay, about this product, when all the other students, okay, are chatting about things from their family heirlooms, she has nothing. And she starts screaming. She just stands up and it's like the pressure on her. Now, she's recently lost her mother. And her outlet, and this is so unlike her, is that she starts to scream. Just, here we are. She screamed. So unprecedented and forceful and possibly high-pitched was her voice that the other students fell apart. Miss Walcott stood still, her hands pressed to her chest, the creases around her eyes deepening. In all her years of teaching, she never has seen anything like this. So in the end, Costas asks for Delphine's sister, her aunt, to come over and basically just talk to her about her mother, just teach her about her mother, more about her life, if you will. Remember, okay, one is Turkish, one is Cypriot. They literally met across the barricades, and it's interesting too because it's kind of very, very gentle in its approach. One thing I love, okay, about Elif Shafak is her very kind of lyrical approach to this thing. This book felt like poetry, absolutely. And when it comes to the fig tree, the arrogance in a way, the fig tree. The fig tree, okay, that knows everything. The fig tree who, because to protect it, winds up getting buried. Quite literally, this every single winter, the fig tree gets uprooted and buried back into the earth, and then is uprooted again. So quite, it's always displaced. That's the thing about this fig tree, in a kind of like a parallel to the immigrant experience, is the feeling of being displaced. So this every year this fig tree is displaced from its own roots, if you will. Here we are. Throughout history, I seduced into my canopy droves of birds, bats, bees, butterflies, ants, mice, monkeys, dinosaurs, and also certain confused couple wandering around aimlessly in the Garden of Eden. A glazed look in her eyes. Make no mistake, that was no apple. It's high time someone corrected this gross misunderstanding. Adam and Eve yielded to the allure of a fig, the temptation of desire, dreams and passion. Sorry, temptation, desire and passion, not some crunchy apple. Do not mean to belittle a fellow plant, but at what chance does a bland apple have next to a luscious fig? As it stands today, even after the original sin, tastes like lost paradise. That's probably true if you believe in biblical Adam and Eve. Right. And the whole thing, okay, it's temptation, desire, and passion. That can also be described to Costas and Delphine. They bit from the forbidden fruit. Their love was forbidden, and they still met at the fig tree and tasted the fruit of the fig tree, and they paid for it. They paid for, and I hate to use the word sin, but the transgression. So, if you will, it's one, absolutely one thing. And when it comes to, once again, the fig tree. Now, the fig tree, okay, is the narrator of the story, whilst Ada is coming more about. Now, there's one very strange moment in this book, okay, which is actually to do with an exorcism, which is way at my realm of understanding, okay. But she's getting in touch with her roots, and interesting too because, okay, when it comes to the fact is, okay, that one is a Cypriot, one is Turkish, one is a Muslim, one is not, one's Catholic. It's interesting too, okay, because essentially Ada's being raised to be, I guess, not atheist, but not religious, right? Her parents decided not to do that to her, to keep her free from that. So, but the thing is this, when it comes to introducing religions into her life, as her aunt does, to her taking to an exorcist of all things, okay, but it's really kind of conflict, okay, because as you have no religion, if you will, got no basis of understanding of it, which I thought was very, very interesting. Here you go. Right. But when it comes to the fig tree, now remember the fig tree talks about the dinosaurs. This is a fig tree now. Right. I like my new home in London. I work hard to fit in, to belong. From time to time, I miss my fig wasp, but fortunately from the past, several thousand years of evolution, there have been panphenophic fig trees. Now I'm one of those who have no need of pollination. Despite this, it will take me 7 years to able to yield fruit again, because that is what migration and relocations do to us. When you leave your home for unknown shores, you don't simply carry on as before. A part of you dies inside, another part can start all over again. And that is so, so true. Now, reading this thing as the fig tree, reading this as part of you is buried. Now, as I said before, when my ancestors got here, the religion, the language, my surname was buried. It was buried. That's the thing. When you immigrate, you bury something, you lose something. This fig tree that goes back to millennia, right, has been uprooted, if you will. Something ends within your family. People change their surnames. People change their religions. People lose their language. It's just kind of how it is. So, just for indicator, fig tree is a metaphor for the immigrant experience. And also in this, there is a love story between Yusuf and Uragos, who actually used to run the fig tree, who actually died in actually terrible circumstances. Now, I'm going to go spoiler territory here, but what happened was that Delphine, because I had to leave the island, Delphine fell pregnant. She went to the fig tree, fun enough, to remove it, if you will, and in the end, but they were attacked, and Yusuf and Uragos wound up being killed and ended at the bottom of the well. Now, the one thing I absolutely love about this book is some very, very nice versions. Now, you think reading this book that Constance and Delphine are going to basically run off together, but they don't. They have to separate. Due to the war, basically, Costas' mother wants him out of there because her brother disappears. So his brother disappears, and so he has to leave Cyprus. And then Devin finds out that she's pregnant. And um, one thing is very, very nice of versions too is that she doesn't, and the child is adopted out. And the versions too, because you think when these two meet, it's going to be a nice big typical reunion, but it's not. It's melancholy. These two people re-meet due to their jobs. Okay, essentially they find Yusuf and Yugo's body, which is in a well. They were a gay couple who were killed, and it's quite sad because they were united in death in a well, but now, okay, they've been found, their bones are going to be separated, if you will. And it's also isn't true because seeing Cyprus, basically when I went there, people who say, oh, I'm an honorary Cypriot because I love this country and I love the food and that type of thing. Whereas you meet people coming back to their motherland with a melancholy air because of the reason that why they left. And interesting too because with Delphine, there's an element of rebellion with her. Now she's a Muslim. However, when you meet her, she's drinking, she's smoking, she's dressed in a very kind of hippie-ish way. So, in a way, okay, her new life out of Cyprus is like a rebellion to what, you know, I guess, the patriarchy of a family as well. And interesting to subversions because when their son died, it was just of an it was just of illness. It was just of an illness. Okay, he lasted a year. Here you go. And this bit here, okay. Our two dear friends, Yusuf and Yuragos, used to run this lovely place, a restaurant, and the food was amazing. You could fill your stomach with delicious smells. Delphine turned towards a window, the light from the sun falling on her shoulders like a gold thread shawl. What happened to them? Poof! They disappeared. That's it, they disappeared. And then they find them. Then they find them, and it's quite sad because their love story, they're going to be separated. They were united in death, but now they're going to be separated. So, when it comes, okay, to Delphine and Costas, when they re-meet, when they actually get to know each other again as adults, the melancholy air of their relationship, it was very, very difficult for them even to get together. Essentially, these two people were kind of bonded back together, okay, by the scars of war and death. The death of their child, the death of their first child, sorry, and the death of basically their innocence. So, I mean, this bit here. We're scared of happiness, you see. From a tender age, we've been taught that in the air, in the esteem wind, and uncanny exchanges at work, so every morsel of contentment there'll be for a morsel of suffering. For every peal of laughter, there's a drop of tear ready to roll. Because that's the way of this strange world, and hence we tend to look too happy, even on days we might feel so inside. Right. So, as regarding pregnancy, they're scared to feel happiness because we can taken away from them. Because this these two felt happiness. They found happiness with each other, and because of that, their friends died. Okay, they were separated. Delphine had a baby, which sadly passed away. In a way, these characters go about their lives, but they are scared to show happiness. And even though, okay, it's not really explored into too much depth, you can see how that generational trauma has affected Ada. Right, has absolutely affected Ada. So, but also when it comes to the fig tree, is it's kind of thing where this is where I think the book falls apart towards the end because I thought the premise actually was really really good. Is the fig tree knows all, but little things okay like animals whisper to the fig tree. The fig tree basically absorbs all knowledge. A worm okay that ate a book suddenly can quote it kind of thing, which I thought was quite ridiculous. But this bit here, when the butterfly shared this with me, a butterfly. I was surprised. When does it affect to find babies in a military cemetery? I wondered then how many families return to the Mediterranean to visit these graves. When Indians meet tourists, we assume they must be here for the sun and sea, no suspecting that some people travel miles away from their home just to mourn. Right. And a description of the grave is in memory of a beloved baby. in memory of Yusuf Uragos Robinson, right, who passed away at a year and a half. When it comes to generational trauma, you can kind of see how much it's affected Delphine. Now, Delphine is only really kind of met in flashbacks, but you can see how essentially she was so broken by her experience. Like this bit here. And you never saw Yusuf and Uragos again. This is after the Taverns been attacked and they've been taken away to be executed. I never saw him again. I decided to have the baby, whatever the consequences. My sister already knew about us. I told him that I was pregnant. Miriam, the sister, said there's a way we could tell my parents the full truth. We'd try to keep your name out of this. She was came with a plan, right? I tried to tell him that the baby was useless and we were planning to get married, and he mysteriously disappeared. So that's what the family thought. In a way, when it comes to happiness, now the fact is, that I think in Delphine's mind, the fact is, she experienced happiness giving birth to happiness with Costas, okay, and then she lost Costas, then she had her baby, gave him up for thing. It's like her first happiness, if you will, kind of caused this outcome. With Delphine, there's a very melancholy air to her, very very melancholy. When it comes to the fig tree, and whilst they're back on Cyprus, they go back to actually the happy fig, to actually see the fig tree again, to actually see the aftermath of the attack, and they see that the fig tree is dying. Interesting too about this fig tree, because this fig tree talks about, I go back to a massive cycle. I go back to the time of the dinosaurs. I go back to Adam and Eve. This fig tree is dying. Now, when I mentioned, like this bit here, right, right. Helpless in the field of fear, I waited knowing that the grub-like larva would soon begin to bore into my trunk and soon start feeding with me, digging tunnels into my branches, destroying me from within, little by little. I was dying. So what Costas does is he takes a sample of the tree, and then he takes it back to England to grow it. He takes it back to actually take care of it, a memory of the tree. Now, essentially, this tree is like the ship of Theseus. Is it the same tree? Right, to this tree it is. Now, the ship of Theseus, or if you want to be, or Vision, if you will, right, just like a modern example, is Vision the same? So, as this new one, right, anyway, so, is it the same tree? And that's kind of like the Immigrant Smith, you uproot yourself, are you still the same thing? Right, is he still the same person? Is this fig tree the one that was in Cyprus at the Happy Fig, the same one? To that tree it is. However, when it mentions the differences, it's like being reborn. It's a new thing. It's all about rebirth. This book is all about rebirth. However, you actually find out though, that this poor fig tree, when Delphine removed herself from the sphere, if you will, herself from this world, she kind of inserted her soul into the fig tree. The whole idea, is that Delphine is this fig tree. Right. Here you go. Women widely circumferent for personal reasons of their own have time and time again turned themselves into native flora. Delphine, Daphne, Daphne, then to reject Apollo, Daphne became a laurel, a skin hardened into protective bark, a arm stretched in slender branches, and a hair unfurled in the silky foliage, was Over tells us, a thesis just a moment ago stuck in slow-growing roots. Whereas Daphne was transformed into a tree in order to avoid love, Attas muted into a tree in order to hold on to love. So the idea is, that this tree, this fig tree, now contains the soul of Delphine. She, in a final act, I guess, of happiness, if you would, to kind of remove herself from this world, right, inserted her soul into the fig tree, kind of going back to her roots, if you will. As I said before, this review is all over the place because there's a lot to take in. And Justin 2K is all about how opinions change and also about empowerment as well. Now, there's a bit at the beginning where Ada, she starts screaming in the classroom. But the thing is, this is not mentioned by her family, but it actually becomes a viral sensation. But there's a moment at the end, where a woman straddles essentially the Berlin Wall. She stands at the Brandenburg Gate at the Berlin Wall, where the Berlin Wall once stood, heard a Messiah saying, "Can you see me now?" and screams. Now, that one thing with Ada, was just a moment, of frustration or fear. She didn't really understand why. It was maybe because she has demons in her body, to do with exorcism. Yes, please read this book. But the thing is, it's that was essentially reappropriated by someone who literally had a wall separating the entire city and became a tool of empowerment, if you will. It's all about how things change. So anyway, this review is all over the place, but I really, really did enjoy it. It's a hard thing to review as well because it goes back and forth in time. And one thing I loved about these characters is it's a nicer version. You think these two are going to run off together? They don't. They meet up again as adults, but their life is quite melancholy. It's quite sad. Generational trauma that they try to avoid by even raising their daughter without faith, if you will, without a faith basis. She's still traumatized, but she doesn't know why because they didn't tell her anything. To spare her the truth of her family, they told her nothing. Or tell her nothing made Ada quite traumatized. The one thing that I really, really had issue with, okay, was the moment where her aunt Mayim takes her to an exorcist, which I just found very, very confusing. But I really, really did enjoy this book. The Iron and Missing Trees, please, please read it. And this is going to be editing nightmare coming up.